You are watching a 100,000-ton vessel moving at 25 knots. That is roughly 46 kilometers per hour. There are no brakes, no rails, no road, just open water and an enormous mass of steel carrying thousands of people and hundreds of thousands of tons of cargo. And somehow it has to stop. Not eventually. Not after drifting for 20 kilometers. It has to stop in a controlled, predictable way, every single time. This is not a small engineering problem. This is one of the most underestimated challenges in maritime design. Most people assume a ship stops the way a car does. You cut the engine, apply something, and it slows down. That assumption is wrong on almost every level. A car weighs around 2,500 kilograms. A fully loaded supertanker can exceed 500,000 tons. The difference in kinetic energy between those two objects moving at highway speed is not a matter of degree. It is a matter of a completely different class of physics. At sea, there is no road surface to push against, no friction from tires, no solid ground transferring force. There is only water, and water is extraordinarily bad at stopping things. So how does it actually work? Let me break it down into the exact sequence of what happens from the moment a captain gives the order to stop. The first thing that happens is engine reversal. On most large commercial vessels, the main propulsion system is a slow-speed two-stroke diesel engine connected directly to a single large propeller shaft. When the order comes to stop, the engine does not simply shut off. It reverses. The propeller, which may be 9 to 10 meters in diameter and weigh over 100 tons, begins turning in the opposite direction. This is called going full astern. The reversed propeller now pushes water forward instead of backward, generating a braking thrust against the ship's momentum. But here is the critical point. This force is not applied to a fixed surface. It is applied to water. And water moves. The efficiency of propeller braking drops significantly as the ship slows down. At high speed, the reversed propeller is fighting enormous momentum with relatively modest force. The deceleration is real, but it is slow, and the distances involved are staggering. A large container ship traveling at full speed requires between 3 and 8 kilometers to come to a complete stop under full astern power. Read that again. 3 to 8 kilometers. That is not a malfunction. That is physics operating exactly as it should. During this stopping distance, the ship is also losing steerage. A ship steers by deflecting water flow with its rudder. At low speeds, water flow over the rudder decreases and directional control becomes increasingly difficult. This is one of the most dangerous phases of any ship-stopping maneuver, particularly in confined waters like harbors and channels. This is where the second system comes into play, the bow thruster. Most modern large vessels are equipped with transverse thrusters, propeller units mounted in tunnels that run through the hull, perpendicular to the ship's direction of travel. These thrusters push water sideways, giving the ship lateral movement independent of its forward motion. Bow thrusters do not stop the ship, but they give the crew the ability to maintain positional control while the main engine works against forward momentum. In tight port approaches, this distinction is critical. The third element is something most people never consider, the anchor. In emergency situations or when a ship needs to stop urgently in a specific location, anchors are dropped not just to hold position, but as an active braking mechanism. A large anchor and its chain can weigh several hundred tons. When dropped at speed, the chain drags along the seabed, creating significant resistance. This is called a running moor or emergency anchor drop. It is not a clean or comfortable maneuver. It puts enormous stress on the anchor chain, the windlass, and the hull structure at the anchor point. It is a last resort, but it works. The fourth element, used in nearly every port arrival, is the tugboat. Tugs are not just convenience. They are a fundamental part of the stopping and maneuvering system for large vessels in confined waters. A typical harbor tug can generate between 40 and 100 tons of bollard pull, the force it can apply to a stationary object. Multiple tugs working in coordination can push, pull, and rotate a vessel that would otherwise be impossible to control at low speeds. The physics of why tugs are necessary comes down to a concept called the minimum steerage speed. Below a certain velocity, a ship's rudder becomes ineffective. The water flow needed to generate rudder force simply is not there. Tugs fill this gap. They provide controllability precisely when the ship's own systems cannot. Now, let me go one level deeper into the engineering. The reason stopping is so difficult is not just mass. It is the relationship between mass, speed, and the medium the ship moves through. Kinetic energy increases with the square of velocity. A ship moving at 20 knots does not have twice the kinetic energy of a ship moving at 10 knots. It has 4 times the kinetic energy. This means that small increases in approach speed have enormous consequences for stopping distance. Port authorities enforce speed limits in harbor approaches not as bureaucratic caution, but as a direct response to this physics. A vessel arriving 2 knots too fast may require an additional kilometer to stop, a kilometer that may not exist between the ship and the dock. Modern ships are also equipped with electronic systems that calculate stopping distance in real time based on current speed, vessel displacement, wind, current, and engine response characteristics. These systems do not stop the ship automatically. They provide the captain and pilot with precise information about what the ship will do given current conditions, allowing decisions to be made with accurate data rather than estimation. The system has limits, and maritime history is full of examples of what happens when those limits are reached. In 1995, the passenger ferry Estonia sank in the Baltic Sea. In 2012, the Costa Concordia ran aground off the Italian coast. In 2021, the Ever Given blocked the Suez Canal for 6 days after losing steering control during a canal transit. These events were not caused by a single failure. They were the result of multiple systems, mechanical, procedural, environmental, and human, reaching their limits simultaneously. The Ever Given case is particularly instructive. The ship did not stop when it should have. A combination of wind, shallow water effects, and propulsion response time created a situation where the available braking and steering systems could not prevent grounding. The physics of the situation outran the tools available to manage it. So what happens when a 100,000-ton ship needs to stop? It reverses its engine against the momentum of an object the size of a small city. It uses thrusters to maintain control during the most dangerous phase of deceleration. It deploys anchors when the situation demands it. It relies on tugboats to provide controllability that its own systems cannot deliver at low speed. And it does all of this across a distance that would take you several minutes to walk. It is not a single mechanism. It is a system designed around the fundamental reality that at this scale, stopping is not simple, and the margin for error is measured in meters, not kilometers. The next time you see a large vessel easing into port, moving at what looks like a slow, almost casual speed, understand that what you are watching is the final stage of a stopping process that began several kilometers ago, coordinated across multiple systems, calculated in real time with very little room for anything to go wrong. If you want to understand the next system on this ship, how a vessel this size generates its own electrical power while moving, independent of any shore connection, I have covered that in another video. The engineering behind it is just as counterintuitive as what we covered today.